Today, we're diving into something deeper than marketing, hiring, or even pricing. We're talking about bringing the beauty back to the beauty industry, starting with your team. So let's rewind for a second and think about the word beauty itself. It comes from the Latin word bellus, meaning good. That's right. Beauty comes from the root word meaning good, not trendy, not popular, good. It's aligned, it's true, it's purposeful.
So when we say we work in the beauty industry, we're not just saying we style hair or perform skin treatments. We're saying that we are in the business of creating goodness, helping people feel seen, confident, and radiant from the inside out. But here's the challenge. Inside many salon companies today, we've shrunk down beauty to a task list. We're checking off appointments, measuring productivity, and filling schedules, but we're missing the deeper transformation. And that transformation can only happen when your team steps into being true beauty professionals, not just service providers.
Listen up. This is so good because, like, your team cannot just do hair or skin anymore. Think about this. In today's saturated market, talent alone isn't enough. Being trendy isn't enough. Speed isn't enough. Like, your clients can get a good haircut anywhere. What they're looking for is someone who sees them, someone who can elevate their look and how they feel about themselves. And that doesn't happen by accident. We talked about the saturated market. A study shows that there's one Starbucks. So think about this. Think of your town. How many Starbucks do you see in your town right away? Probably several, right? There's one Starbucks to every 60 salons. Isn't that so crazy? So even if there's three Starbucks, so three times 60 is 180 salons just in your area. And so this is going to be a huge opportunity today that, to really think about that if your team isn't trained to think like true professionals, to diagnose, to recommend, and to elevate every client experience, you're going to be leaving massive opportunity on the table. This is good. Let me say it again. This is what we like to say, a writer downer is opportunity is lost every time your team just does the service and sends someone out the door.
Oh, that is so true, Jen. Didn't you guys just recently have somebody come in for an updo?
We did that really showcases this. Yeah, we had a client come in she was new to our salon, and she was booked for a special occasion. So after discovering what her special occasion was, it was her wedding day. She was doing an elopement because she said, this is her second marriage. She already has kids. She was getting married at the courthouse. This is great. So this is a big day for her. And so we were really excited to work with her. So we could have approached this two different ways. So normally, what probably most team members would do would be like, okay, special occasion. I'll just create great special occasion here, and we'll send her out the door and hope she has the best day ever. But like looking at it through a different perspective or a different lens is I actually helped. We had a new team member that was doing the special occasion, so she needed a little coaching. And not only did we do a great updo, we did a skin tone analysis. So she was going to be doing her own makeup that day. We did a skin tone analysis, and she's like, I had no idea you did makeup. I said, oh, great. Well, here's some colors that would be great for you to use today when you do your makeup at home. We did a color analysis. We said, hey, right now your hair is a little warm. You are more of a summer palette. So these are your best colors. And so some things and opportunities to look at when it comes to your hair is maybe cooling off your blonde just a little bit. And then we also talked about, we took into account her wedding dress, how we should wear her hair based on her face shape after her wedding, how she should cut her hair after her, big day. And it was so interesting. I remember her sitting in the chair and she said, I had no idea you guys did all this. She said, actually, you know what? I have an appointment at another salon next week. I'm going to go ahead and call and cancel, and I'm going to get my highlights and color and haircut booked with you guys. And I was like, that's the power of creating like a true experience or a true diagnosis. And her mom that came with her that day said, you know what? I live in Virginia, but the next time I'm in the area, I want to have the same experience. And so I think her special occasion hair might have been, I don't even remember if it was $80 or $90 that day. She tipped me and that service provider the same amount as her service was. And I was like, no worries, don't worry about tipping me. I was helping the service provider. But it was just so interesting that like that changed her life. And in that moment, it wasn't just about her wedding anymore. It was about her gaining more confidence and more opportunities for her to even feel better about herself. And so isn't that
Mm.
amazing? Like when you really think about that, I was telling my team that yesterday, it's like her visit was $90. She tipped us $90. Like
Wow.
that's how
Yes.
much impact we had on her.
That's incredible, Jen. And to me, that is bringing beauty back to the industry. But that's also the difference between running a busy salon and running a profitable one. Because most salon owners think the reason their team isn't upselling or rebooking is because they're not motivated enough. But you guys, motivation isn't the issue. Your team isn't lazy. They're overwhelmed. They're thinking, what's next on my schedule? Did I post today? How do I hit my goals? Am I even good enough to recommend that service? But as one of our mentors, Dan Kennedy says, most people are turned into WIFFM. What's in it for me? And if we don't train their thinking, they stay stuck there. Meanwhile, you, the salon owner, are focused on questions like, how much profit can we generate today? What percentage of guests are rebooking? What is our retail to service ratio? That's a different lens. And your job is to close that gap, to lead your team into thinking like true beauty professionals.
To lead your team thinking like true beauty professionals.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that. So, we're going to dive into step 4 of the sales process. So if you've been following along with us, we have an entire sales process that is full of systems. We know that wealth is based upon systems that really helps your team bring the beauty back to the beauty industry. And so, step 4 of the sales process, which sometimes is the most overlooked opportunity, it's actually diagnosis. And this is the pivot point in the client journey. And most beauty pros, they rush right past it. Diagnosis is where we move from service provider to that true trusted expert. Just like we did with the client that came in for an updo. We could have let her leave with just an updo, but we let her leave with a complete look. That's what a true diagnosis is all about. And here's what's really interesting is the origin of the word, the root word of diagnose comes from the Greek word metamorphosis, which means to know through, to change form. So if you think of a butterfly, they start as a caterpillar, go into a cocoon, and then they're a butterfly. That's the opportunity we get every single time we diagnose a client, is we get to create a metamorphosis for them. But the only way to do that is to truly diagnose it. So when you have a team member on
Mhm.
your team that doesn't diagnose, they're just guessing. And when they're guessing, that's when that missed opportunity comes in. It's not just a loss of trust, it's also a loss of revenue.
Mm. Yeah, you guys, because every time your team skips this step, it costs the business, missed add-on services, no retail sold, no second appointments booked, no transformation delivered. It's what another one of our mentors, Myron Golden, calls the cost of not knowing. So what do? We have to build a system that teaches professional diagnosis. And this is something that we dive really deep into our program $1 Million Beauty Pro that is getting ready to launch really soon, that can take your team to that $1 million wealth mindset and have the exact systems, so it takes all the guesswork out of it for you as a salon owner, all the guesswork out of it for them, and actually starts to train them as true beauty professionals. So, but here's what we dive into. Here's the 3-step diagnosis system that we teach salon owners to implement inside of their companies. And the system turns nervous, uncertain stylists into confident, profitable professionals fast, So step one of that is going to be the color analysis. This is where you teach your team to elevate tone. Are they wearing the right shades? Warm versus cool. What season are they? Summer, winter, autumn, spring. This step alone can open the door to a full service color plan and retail recommendations that feel natural and not pushy. And it really does create such an amazing connection. It gives that person so much life force energy when they realize what their natural shades are, what makes them glow.
Love that. And so step two of the diagnosis system is actually going to be the face shape analysis. Thinking about, is the haircut actually flattering their natural structure? Is it elongating? Is it softening? Is it balancing? This opens the door to personalized cuts, styling education, and tool sales. And a employee or a team member that's been with me for 11 years, she says, I remember, Jen, we used to, when I worked with you many, many years ago, like I remember us looking at a client and saying, hey, let's add highlights here, or let's add darkness here based upon that face shape. And that's what truly, at the end of the day, can truly create raving fans.
Yeah, so good. In step three, this really, puts the cherry on top. This is where you do the lifestyle analysis, because are we recommending something that fits their real life? Do they have 10 minutes to style their hair or do they have 40? Are they professionals, athletes, new moms? This is the step that builds trust because when the client feels understood, they follow your lead, and you don't need your team guessing. You need them guiding. And this system gives them the confidence and the language to do it.
Mm. And here's the other secret, guys, is you don't just teach this once and forget it. You
Mhm.
actually have to track it. So you want to build this into your huddles, into your weekly one-on-ones, into your peer coaching, into your secret shopper reports, into your diagnosis scoring tools, into your floor coaching debriefs. Because what we know is the more reps they get in, the more results, the better results they will get. The more your team practices, the more confident they become. And the more confident they become, the more profitable your salon becomes. And this is how you go from a salon that looks busy to a salon that's truly thriving.
Mm, so good. And here's what we know is what happens when you build beauty professionals, true beauty professionals, because here's what actual salon owners report when they have built this into their culture. Salon owners that we work with every day. So, their retail sales increase without pushing. Their service upgrades happen naturally. Their clients rebook, at higher rates. Their new guest retention improves, team morale improves, and most importantly, the guest experience skyrockets. Why? Because clients are no longer being served by people who are trying to hit their numbers. They're being served by professionals who understand their needs and deliver real transformation. And that's what sets you apart in a crowded market. Like Jen mentioned earlier, there's 60 salons to every one Starbucks, and it feels like there's a Starbucks on every corner. So that's what sets you apart in this crowded market. It's not cheaper products, it's not cheaper prices on services, it's not flashier reels, it's just professionalism. Beauty pros that show up as professionals.
Mhm. So remember, guys, you have to think about this. Like, you're not in the service industry, you're in the transformation industry. So let's bring it back to where it all started. The word beauty means good. So here's the real question: does your team deliver goodness? That's a great question to pause and reflect with yourself. Do they understand how to lead a guest to a better version of themselves? And do they have the systems in place to scale that transformation? Because that's your job, that's your responsibility. If your salon doesn't need more your salon doesn't need more service providers. It actually needs more beauty professionals. And beauty professionals don't just do the hair, they actually diagnose, they recommend, they guide, they create trust, they create value, and ultimately they create profit.
Mm, love that. So, if this episode spoke to you, share it with a fellow salon owner. And if you want something incredible, text us the word diagnose, that's DIAGNOSE, to 469-283-5590, and we will send you our free 3-step team training guide on how to implement this system inside of your salon this month. You don't have to do this alone, but you do have to do it on purpose. So let's bring the beauty or the goodness back to this industry, one system, one transformation, one professional at a time. We'll see you guys next time.